NBA tip-off show for Thursday, March the 7th. Big NBA card once again. We've had big NBA cards all week long. We've got 7 more games going tonight, and we're going to break them down with 3 of the best NBA handicappers on the planet and at WagerTalk.com as well. The prop master, Andy Lang, Marco D'Angelo, and Ralph Michaels. And gentlemen, this is a nice panel, a little bit of a variety panel here. We don't always get to work together. And I am Steve Merrill, by the way, filled in for Joe Ranieri, who's working hard right now, actually producing some betting tips 101 videos that we've been knocking out all day. So check those out here on Wager Talk TV the next several days and nights. Some great content, additional great content coming your way here for free. So give it a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, and hit that bell for instant alerts so you know when the videos are ready here on the channel. And Andy Lang, let's get right to it here. We got a good card of NBA tonight on Thursday. You know, the Thursday cards have been pretty small quite often this season, but they're picking up the tempo here in the month of March, trying to keep pace, I guess, with college basketball. And we have to, of course, start off with the contrarian play of the day, and that is the Chicago Bulls +8 against the Golden State Warriors. The Bulls last night in Utah, no rest. Golden State last night, of course, played Milwaukee, got the win. The Bulls squeaked out the win against the non-covering win against the Jazz. Andy, are you going contrarian with the Chicago Bulls +8 tonight on Thursday?
Yeah, sure. Why not? It does kind of check all the boxes as to what the contrarian play is, where you've got a team that's probably a little bit overvalued, but that the public is probably going to be all over because of a dominating win, and then you get a team in the Chicago Bulls that probably not high on everyone's list of teams that they want to be betting on. But yeah, you can make the case. This is a team that has won outright their last 3 road games in the Chicago Bulls. They beat Utah, they beat Sacramento, and they beat New Orleans. So that's not a bad track record for if you're the Bulls. And for Golden State, you can make the case it's a pretty big letdown spot here. Big win against Milwaukee, coming off of that just really embarrassing bad loss against Boston, and then they get the nice rebound spot. So you can make the case it's a pretty good letdown spot. I do think there's a sneaky little player prop in this game. It's Andrew Wiggins over 9.5 points. So he took a few games off, had a personal matter he had to deal with. He was back last night, but he only played 14 minutes. By far the least amount of anybody that started for Golden State. And maybe they were just trying to ease him back, but maybe they're saving him for a little bit for tonight. Before his break, he had flown over this total in 9 straight games. So if you're looking for a guy who didn't play very many minutes in the Golden State's last game with a really, really low point total, it's definitely Andrew Wiggins. His over 1.5 3-pointers has been a decent little prop, but I think he has a nice night tonight against a suspect Bulls defense. So I do like the Bulls to cover, and I like Andrew Wiggins over 9.5 points.
Yeah, and Marco, I mean, this could definitely be a flat spot for Golden State. I actually took advantage of a good spot for Golden State last night. My NBA game of the night for my clients at WagerTalk.com was the Warriors, an easy 35-point blowout of the Bucks. That was more of a play against Milwaukee for me. And keep in mind, Golden State lost by, 52 points against Boston right before that. So their last 2 games have been decided by 52 and 35. We don't have Rob Bino to do the math, but I believe that's an 87-point margin the last 2 games. Does Golden State zigzag? Do they let down tonight? Is Chicago a contrarian call?
Absolutely. Chicago's the contrarian call. And this is the epitome of my no team is as bad as their worst game. That would have been Golden State 2 games ago. And nobody's as good as their best game, which was Golden State last night, winning by 35. They're somewhere in between, but we know they're a popular team no matter what, because of the success they've had over the last decade, Steph Curry and company. And this is a spot that anybody that watched last night's game is going to want to take Golden State. Plus the fact, Andy covered everything that I was going to cover, throw in the fact that Chicago's got to travel, where Golden State got to sleep in their own beds last night. They did return home from a road trip, and normally I like to go against teams that first game of the road or homestand, but because they had such a bad taste in their mouth from their final road game, that was a play-on spot last night with Golden State. Tonight is the night to step in front of them. Go ahead and give me Chicago in the 8 points. I think this one goes right down to the wire. You'll see a much tighter game tonight. And you know what? Chicago, they played in a tight one last night. If this one's tight late, advantage goes to the Bulls. I'll take them plus the points.
Ralph Michaels, I mentioned this on yesterday's show when we were talking about the Golden State Milwaukee game, that it's last year the Warriors had one of the most extreme home road dichotomies we'd seen in recent history in the NBA. They were good at home, they were just terrible on the road. This season, they're 17 and 15 at home after the win last night, and they're 16 and 13 on the road. So it's been quite different this season. Home court hasn't been nearly as strong. Also, the Bulls had been ice cold offensively. They had shot 43% or worse in 4 straight games, and then all of a sudden they've shot 50% each of the last 2 games. But this is their 3rd game in 4 nights, no rest, altitude last night. Are you going to make it a clean sweep here with the contrarian call on the Bulls, or are you going Warriors?
Hell no. I mean, I hate disagreeing with Andy. I love disagreeing with Marco. So there's absolutely, I'm going to go with Golden State. I am going to mention this, Steve. This is my best bet, but I loved what Andy and Marco said. So I'm going to just go through my best bet here now and just repeat it quickly at the end. First off, both teams were off wins. Andy talked about what Wiggins played. Well, Golden State had a 20-point lead at halftime. Curry played 31 minutes, and no other starter on the team played more than 26 minutes. And you want to talk about a bench emptying win? 15 players for the Golden State Warriors played at least 4 minutes yesterday. So when you're playing back-to-back and only one player played more than 26 minutes, it's not truly a back-to-back. The Bulls went down to the wire in a 2-point win. The starters averaged over 36 minutes, and the 9 players saw action, only their main rotation guys. You look at Golden State. When Golden State is a favorite of -2 or higher, they are on an 11-1 run. And while they have no rest, they're actually 9-4 with no rest, including 4 straight covers. The Bulls on the flip side, 1-4 against the spread as a small favorite or a dog with no rest. And Steve, you talked about elevation. People think about Denver being mile high. Well, Salt Lake City is actually 4,265 feet. So while it's not mile high, you do have the elevation. When teams since 2016 played at Utah and have no rest the next day, those teams have only gone 38.6%. So that elevation back-to-back Utah-Denver situations, having played in one of those cities, does affect NBA teams significantly. And finally, a league-wide system since 2004. When both teams have no rest, the home team is off a home game, the visitor is off an away win, the homer is 69% against the spread. So we are talking some strong numbers, again, since 2004. The Golden State defense is improving. I like the way they're playing down the stretch. This is an actual client release of mine, a 3% play. And again, it will be my best bet. I'll quickly recap at the end of the show.
So technically, Ralph went contrarian by disagreeing with the contrarian play because the first 2 guys agreed with it. I see where you did that. By the way, Golden State, Ralph, great point about them beating up on the weaklings. They are 12-3 straight up in ATS their last 15 games. And there's only 3 losses. That Celtic loss, of course, Denver, and the LA Clippers. Arguably the 3 best teams in the NBA right now. They've gone 12-0 straight up ATS or other games. And they're on a 13-2 underrun those 15 games. Ralph talked about the better defense. 13-2, including 8 straight unders. That total tonight, by the way, in this game is priced around 223. Very little movement. And once again, the Chicago Bulls +8 for the show is the contrarian call of the day. All right, let's look at a spotlight featured game for tonight in the NBA. And we're going to look, as you see on the screen there, the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks. Check the WagerTalk live odds screen. We see Dallas is currently about a 4.5-point home favorite. Totals holding steady at 229. Andy Lang, side or total, or there's some props that jump out to you in this game?
Oh, this is an easy play for me. I'll take the Miami Heat over 112.5 on their team total. Last 7 games, the worst defensive rated team is the Dallas Mavericks. Not only have they given up over this 112.5 per game in the last 7, they've given up 120 or more in 6 straight games. So they are giving up just boatloads of points. So I don't even need to look at the spread. I just need to look at this Miami Heat, the team who's been playing well. What have they won? 6 out of 7 games. But it's really just a big fade of the Dallas Mavericks defense. They're starting to fall apart. So give me the Miami Heat over 112.5 team total.
Up and over the team total for the Miami Heat. Marco D'Angelo, what are you doing with this spotlight game tonight, Miami at Dallas?
Well, the MO for the Miami Heat has been you play them as an underdog, you fade them as a favorite. That's been pretty much money in the bank lately. The team is playing well right now. And so the knee jerk reaction would be to grab Miami plus the points. But maybe I could have threw this one in a contrarian because I am going to go contrarian with this one. And I'm going to take Dallas. I know they're not playing well right now. They have lost 5 of their last 6 games, but 4 of those 6 games were on the road. And the last 3 losses were to some pretty good teams. They played Boston, Philadelphia, and Indiana's put it back together, playing better ball right now. Last 5 years, though, in the NBA, here's an angle that favors Dallas after having lost 5 or more of your last 7 games. And you have a winning record, and you're playing a team with a winning record in the NBA. Blindly, the last 5 seasons, that angle has gone 119 and 77 against the spread. That would say to take Dallas. And Dallas is coming off a home loss. Upset loss is a favorite. They lost by 15 points or more. They have done that 12 times in the last 3 seasons. Well, next game, they're 11-1 against the spread. I'm going to look for them to bounce back tonight. I'm going to take the Mavericks, lay the points against what's probably going to be a very popular Miami Heat team tonight at the windows.
Yeah, Ralph, Miami about a month and a half ago was in the longest losing streak, 7 straight losses in the history of having splashed as a head coach for over a decade. They've obviously bounced back pretty strong here in the past month or so. So was it now 7-1 straight up in their last 8, but they failed to cover the last 2 games after I believe it was 7 or 8 straight point spread covers. Dallas, meanwhile, really shaky on defense at times. This team's given up over 50% shooting in 4 of their last 6. So how do you think this game's going to play out tonight? Dallas, by the way, 1-5 straight up their last 6 games.
Well, Steve, my first 2 games happen to be the contrarian and the dog. So I am on Miami. I will wait to break this one down. Then That's My Dog segment that Robert will be playing for us in just a minute.
That's my dog. Yeah, we got some love in the comments the other day. Somebody was new to the show, and they said, that's the first time watching the show. That graphic and music is fantastic. And we're like, well, Robert did it. Our producer, Robert. Hey, give Robert some love in the comments below here afterwards. Live chat, but also the comments below here on YouTube. What is your favorite part of the NBA tip-off show? That's My Dog has to be at the top of the list. But I'll tell you a part of the show that I like, guys, and that is the overtime segment. Normally we look at the highest total on the board, but, we've been getting some lower totals here in recent weeks. We're going to look at a fairly high total, though, in this one, and that's the San Antonio Spurs and the Sacramento Kings. Andy, no Wembanyama. He is out with an ankle sprain. The total has dropped from 237.5 recently to 235.5. Did a solo video earlier, but I forgot to hit send, so you're not going to see it up here on WagerTalk TV. But I'm going to try to clip it for Instagram. And I'll tell you what, after we go around, I'll give my take on this since I did a video, so we'll get some use out of that knowledge I acquired. But I want to get your take on this game first. Fairly high total. The Spurs defense, as we know, has been pretty bad this year, but no Wembanyama in the lineup. How much of a difference is that going to make the way you're handicapping this?
This is a really tough one. This total, it seems about right. You can make the case, well, no Wembanyama, bad defense, but you could also say, well, then who's going to score? Where's the offense going to come from San Antonio? So without Wembanyama, this game really, really could be a mess. My best bet is a player prop in this game. I would lean under ever so slightly, 235.5. The Spurs team is 0-6 without Wemby, and their losses have been to pretty bad teams. So when you look at the Sacramento Kings team, I don't know. I have a terrible read on the Sacramento Kings. They're 35-26, and yet it just feels like every time I look up, they're losing to like the good teams, and they're beating up on the bad teams. So I guess I would lean a little bit of an under, but I can't say I have a very strong opinion on this one. When you're betting on a game that involves the Spurs and there's no Wembanyama, you're just, it's a roll of the dice in my opinion. So me personally, I'm not going to play this except for my best bet, which is a player prop, but ever so slightly into the under.
That best bet segment coming up in a few minutes here at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. Marco, line's gone from 8.5 to 11. Wembanyama, I believe, missed like 6 games this season, but we're talking total here. Spurs have gone under in 4 of their last 5. They've only had 1 over in their last 6 with a push. How much of a difference though is Wembanyama? I know this is a tough handicap with him out of the lineup.
No question, that's the X factor. But you're seeing the money did come in on the under, and we know there's not the squares are not running to the book to bet an under. Okay, it's the sharps that move this line to the under. And if you look at the first 2 meetings, both of the games totaled 249 exactly. Yet they're coming with the under in this one, and I'm going to agree with it. And I'm looking at it more from the Sacramento side. Sacramento played last night. They were in a high-scoring game against the Lakers, 130 to 120. But that would have been the game plan. If you're playing the Lakers in your Sacramento, you want to run the ball. You want to force the pace. You want to try to make LeBron have to run up and down the court, which means he'll play less defense on the defensive side of it, having to score to keep up. So tonight, I see a little bit of a role reversal. I see Sacramento, if they do take command of this game early, that'll even favor the under even more, because since they played last night, they'll have no problem wanting to take the air out of the ball and slow the pace down. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I agree with the line move. This one is under the total, 235.5. And I'll give you a stat. San Antonio, same season revenge this year, 18-8 to the under when they're in that spot. Now, granted, this is one of the few times that they will be without Wembley, so we'll see what happens tonight if that pattern continues.
Interesting that they've only had 26 games with in-season revenge, because they've lost 49 times. You would have thought it was a little bit higher. 13-49 record. It's been one of the worst, if not the worst, teams in the NBA at times. Ralph, I've been thinking about you a lot this week, because a lot of the overtime segments the last week or two have been the lowest totals on the board. And we always talk about the lowest totals stay under, the highest go over. But some of those low totals are starting to go over now, because we're seeing 1 or 2 a day, like the 209, 210. Tonight, the lowest is actually the first game, Brooklyn, Detroit, 216. Of course, Brooklyn's involved, as has been the case with many of those low totals. We have more modest totals tonight, but the highest one on the board is still the 235.5 in this Sacramento-San Antonio game. Is this a situation, even without Wemby, that we play the highest total over?
Well, I don't think so. I'm looking, Steve, right now, looking so far this year in the NBA, totals of 220 or less are 56% to the over. Totals of 210 or less are 44%. So right around that middle there, that 215 range is where you're starting to get some action. And actually, those have been leaning over. So as you said, traditionally, the lowest totals have gone under. This year so far, it has not. And maybe that's just because, we're looking at the different NBA and they, when they're setting those totals, they can set them a lot higher than they used to, because the scoring's so different, and it continues to go that way. When I break down the teams, though, you look at the Kings at home. The Kings have been an over team, 18-8 over under at home. If you look at the Kings with no rest, they're 3-1 over under when at home with no rest. By the way, the Kings at home with no rest are 0-4 ATS so far this year. The Spurs, you mentioned the unders. They're 10-15-2 over under as an away dog of 6 or more. And since January 1st, as an away dog of 6 or more, they're 3-9-2 over under. When I look at the game and you look at two defenses that are not playing well, you look at the Kings, the last 5 games, the Kings are allowing 51.3%. On the road, San Antonio allowing 49.1%. You look at the team shooting the last 5 games, they're shooting 49 and 49%. But with Sacramento having played yesterday, beating the Lakers, being a significant favorite against the team, I think there's some letdown in that role. And when you have a letdown, it usually happens on the defensive edge. So I went back and forth on this total. I would say if I had to pick a total, I would lean with the Sacramento side over the total, Now, again, I said there might be a letdown spot, and in my mind, when there's a letdown spot, that's usually on the defensive end. I think without Victor in the middle, that I do lean Sacramento team total over the total, but that's the slightest of leans I have. Basically, me flipping a coin.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, I think this 11-point spread looks pretty big considering the Kings are coming off an upset win against the Lakers last night, traveling without rest. And keep in mind, they blew a huge lead against the Bulls on Monday in the fourth quarter and ended up losing that game. So they've had a pretty tough week so far. And yes, they're fighting for playoff positioning, but a win is a win. You don't have to win by 12 or more. It still counts as a win in the playoff rankings. But the total in this game, what I did for my solo video, which will never be seen because I forgot to send it in, I actually leaned towards the over in this one for a couple reasons. First of all, I mentioned that Wembanyama is out. The initial thought is they're going to be hurting offensively, and I think that makes sense. But if you look at the numbers this year, he's missed 6 of the 62 games, and he's set during other parts of the game. So if you look at a 48-minute average per 100 possessions, the Spurs have actually been 3 points better per 100 possessions when he's been off the court this year, which is kind of random. I don't read much into that. But what jumps out to me is when he's off the court defensively. This team is almost 9 points weaker defensively per 100 possessions. And that makes a lot of sense. He's going to be rookie of the year. He's a huge presence down low. In fact, he has 18 blocks in his last 3 games alone. He had 13 blocks so far this week on the Sunday and Tuesday games. And I think that'll be the difference here. This line blindly moved down because their top scorer, 23 points a game, is out. But this is the NBA. We often see other guys step up. And the Kings have shown that they don't play much defense at times. They've got up 50% or worse in 4 of their last 5 games. Spurs have been one of the worst, if not the worst, defensive teams all year. I think this is a sneaky over 235.5 play tonight, even without the rookie of the year Wembanyama in the lineup. And we're getting some line value because of it. All right, that's the overtime segment here. Now let's go to one of the most popular parts of the show, and that's my dog. Robert, kick it to us.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. And anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
We have got some dogs, as Joe Ranieri would say. Look at that ugliness. T-Wolves as a dog, though. That might be the most attractive dog we've seen all season. They've been one of the best teams in the NBA. And by the way, they opened as a 2-point favorite. They're now a 1.5 to 2-point dog. We see the Heat there. Nuggets, Pistons are always on that list when they play. Raptors have been just god-awful recently. The Bulls, and then those Spurs we just talked about. So Andy Lang, we've got one very good-looking dog for the first time in a while in the T-Wolves. Any other dogs catch your eyes tonight?
Well, the point of the segment is to pick the ugly one. That have
That is
fun.
true.
Let's take the terrible team. I'll take the Raptors. Absolutely. Plus 10. Yeah. So what they can't score. So what they can't defend. So here's one interesting thing though about the Raptors. They've actually won outright their last 3 road games. Now, it hasn't been to teams as good as the Phoenix Suns, but I can make the case this might be a little bit of a look-ahead spot here, Marco. Sandwich game, possibly. They just beat Denver in overtime. They get Toronto, and then they get Boston on Saturday. So maybe a little bit of a look-ahead spot. Raptors have played decent on the road. So, yeah, I'll take the Raptors. And I will say, about a year ago, I ran into somebody who said, "You're Andy from WagerTalk." And I was like, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "I love the That's My Dog segment."
Here we
Just
go.
a complete
That's
stranger.
true now, Andy. That's a second vote because we had one of the comments yesterday.
So, yeah, shout out to Robert.
And had he not
Not
said
like
that, Andy would have backed up.
not Andy. I love your style, Andy. I deal with you, but I love that. That's my dog segment. Yeah,
That's true. It's that's called a
We'll
backhanded compliment, right?
I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, viewers, once again, what is your favorite part of the show? Comment below here on YouTube. Let us know, because then maybe we can add more segments like that to other shows. I do like That's My Dog. And I mentioned that the T-Wolves opened as a 2.5-point road favorite at Indiana. They're now a 1.5-point dog. And that, of course, is because Karl Anthony Towns is out tonight. For those not tracking, we didn't talk about that game. But that is one of the reasons the T-Wolves are a rare dog tonight. Marco D'Angelo, the other thing you love more than a sandwich is a dog. maybe a hot dog. Technically, is a hot dog a sandwich? Comment below on that, damn it, and let us know your thoughts. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Get some good interaction going on that. But Marco, what dog are you looking at tonight?
I'm just trying to figure out how I got paired with these two guys on the show here. First off, Andy, you are right. There is a sandwich spot here with this game. And I saw that you had Toronto here, and I already gave out Toronto on a show I did this morning. So I wanted to bring a different dog. And I know that Ralph gets upset when somebody takes a small dog. But whenever you take Detroit as a dog, I don't care if they're small, big, or not. You got a big set of kahunas, and that's where I'm going, because I'm going to take the Pistons tonight to get a rare outright win. They're only got 9 wins on the season. We'll grab them. Doesn't that look way too easy? You got a line of 2.5. That's basically just pick the winner. Brooklyn's rolling in here. They've won 3 of the. This is also going to be their 3rd game in 4 nights for Brooklyn. They're coming off a big win against Philadelphia. Talk about a team that might just look right past the team. I'll go ahead and take Detroit. As bad as they've been this year, they're actually playing hard. They've covered 4 of their last 6 games. And as I said, when you got to pick a pick the winner situation with a team this late in the season with only 9 wins, I'll sign up for that. Brooklyn, as a favorite the last 3 years, has been a money-burning 49-69 against the spread. And Brooklyn, after covering 3 of their last 4 games over the last 3 seasons, that record becomes even worse, 5-15 against the spread. Let's take the ugly dog. They need some love too. I'll take the Pistons plus the points tonight. But full disclosure, I do have Toronto plus the 10 as well with Andy. I think that's a great spot for the Raptors tonight.
Yeah, Detroit's an ugly dog, but like plus 2.5. They're, by the way, 4-25 straight up at home. 4-25 straight up at home. But hey, ugly dogs got to win home games too at some point. Marco, think that might be tonight. All right, Ralph, I'm curious, what dog are you going with for this segment?
Well, I just want to say this to Marco. Marco, you're on a public show. Since no one's ever told you had big cojones, you don't need to say to yourself, well, I'm taking the Detroit Pistons, so I have big cojones. Just to let you know, Marco, that's not appropriate for this type of show. So
just don't show it.
I went to the database. And I'll answer it after I get done with this game. There are only 2 NBA teams that have a winning straight-up record as a dog this year. One team is 9-7. One team is 13-12. I'll go through my big dogs and I'll share those 2 teams at the end of this segment. But I am on Miami, and I understand. Dallas has not only played poor; their defense has been pathetic, which Andy proved. Andy pointed out. Excuse me. Miami's on a 6-0 run as a dog, winning 4 of the last 5 straight up. As an away dog, they're 12-5 ATS at 71% since November the 1st. And when they're an away dog of 4+ points, they're 0-2 with no rest. They do have rest today. They're 10-3 against the spread in that role with rest. You look at Dallas. The Boston game, no problem as a loss. I'm going to disagree with Marco saying Philadelphia is a good team. They were a 7.5-point home favorite when they lost to Philly, and then they lose to Indiana as a 4.5-point home favorite. Dallas's last 6 games, they've allowed 52% completions. And while Miami shot 42% against Denver in that loss, that was the final game of a 7-game road trip. And in the other 4 games prior to surrounding that Denver game, they actually shot 52%. FYI, the Mavs are the worst team in the NBA when you look at a straight up record when they're a single-digit dog. They've been a single-digit dog, so that's a 1-point favorite. A single-digit favorite. My apologies. The Mavs have been a favorite from -1 to -9.5 16 times, and they are only 8-8 straight up in that role. Again, that is the worst straight up record for any NBA team as a single-digit favorite with at least 10 games in that role. So I am on Miami plus the points. I would sprinkle a little bit on the Heat plus the 154. So the question Which two teams are the only teams with a winning straight-up record as a dog in the NBA? The Thunder are 9-7 straight up as a dog, and the New Orleans Pelicans are 13-12 straight up as a dog.
Yeah, Pelicans have been a play-on team for me. I gave them out as the free play the other night against those Raptors. They blew them out here on the show. And Joe Ranieri asked me Monday, a play-on team going forward, a playoff caliber team, and I said the Pelicans as well. So not a surprise there, Ralph. They've been a very underrated team this season in the NBA. All right, that's my dog segment. And now the other great part of the show, in my opinion, is the best bet segment, not just because you get some great actionable info, but because we have a shot clock to keep these cappers honest. 60 seconds on the clock. Andy Lang, dribble around, promote, and I have a feeling a prop is coming as well.
Yes, absolutely. We have a prop that's coming, and we're going to go with Domantas Sabonis under 22.5 points. So I would think that the line of thinking here would be, well, Sabonis is playing the Spurs, and the Spurs don't have Wembanyama, so that probably means he's going to have a field day. Well, I'm going the other way. I think Sabonis, this got blowout written all over it, where he doesn't play a full load of minutes, and you look at his point total, and he's not gone over this point total since February 13th against Phoenix. And on the few occasions he does go over 22.5, they're close games where he plays a lot of minutes. He had 35 points against Phoenix. That was a 130-125 game. He had 30 points against Detroit. That was a 133-120 loss. 26 points against the Pacers. That was a 10-point win. When these games are not close, he doesn't play a whole lot in the fourth quarter. I'll take Sabonis under 22.5. Best bet that is up. I encourage everyone to get 5% UFC play. There is a 4% play included. We have high expectations for this weekend. Check that out at WagerTalk.com.
Andy Lang, the prop master, WagerTalk.com. And Marco, for your game, it's amazing that we have not talked about this game on the show. I think we've covered every other game tonight. It's probably the best game of the season, maybe, in the NBA, the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. So really looking forward to getting your take on this game.
Yeah, Steve, you're looking at this one. Boston had their 11-game winning streak snapped last game, and one might say, hey, maybe they got caught looking ahead. They were coming off that Golden State blowout, and then they had the defending champs on deck. Well, that is true, but I got to say the same thing for Denver. They lost their last game. They were coming off beating the Lakers. I don't care what the records are. Beating LeBron's always a big deal. And then they had this game playing the beast of the East, Boston. So looking for Denver to bounce back in this one. They're 24-6 straight up at home. You're getting them in a just pick the winner situation. Boston does play with revenge for a 2-point loss, but guess what? They're just 4-15 against the spread on the road, revenging a straight up loss as a home favorite the last 3 years. Guys, you want to check out my 4% play tonight. We've been on a great run with those. But if you want all of my plays, use Marco25. Get 25% off any all-access package. That includes monthly and yearly packages. Save at WagerTalk.com.
Some shot clock violations on today's show. By the way, guys, I think it was a New Jersey high school game yesterday. It's all over the internet now. They had a half a second left winning shot to go to the state finals. Andy, you'll like this as an official. And they
I saw it.
Waved it off. Did you see that? It was pretty controversial, to say the least. It was rough. It was rough. So anybody out there that didn't Google that after the show, it's entertaining to say the least. Ralph Michaels, finish it off here. What's the best bet that you're looking at here tonight on Thursday?
As I mentioned, I talked about it earlier. Golden State is my best bet, and it is an actual client release. I am on a 9-0 run the last 3 days. NBA going 8-2, 80%, and 64% since last April. And I have a very special offer for all new first-time users, or if you're a one-time user, use the code NEWRALPH, NEWRALPH. First-time buyers can save 90%, pay just $2.90 for my top play trio. That's my top NBA play, top college basketball play, and top NHL play today. By the way, my NBA play is the Golden State play, so you're only going to get 2 plays. But again, for $2.90, it's worth trying a red-hot capper. By the way, there's only been 98 games in the NBA since 2002 where both teams have a win percentage of 65% or higher in the second half of the season, and the team is a home dog. The home dog, like Denver, has covered 53%.
Interesting stuff. And the Celtics, of course, 48-13 on the season. Two teams combined, 70 wins already, the Denver-Boston game tonight. By the way, I have a free play in that game. My top NBA opinion tonight is free on my page right now, Celtics and Nuggets. So check that out, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. And I've got 3 strong college basketball best bets tonight, a 3-for-1 special in college hoops. Last night, I went 4-1 on best bets and the free play combined. I've got 3 college hoops plays and also that NBA play for free between the Nuggets and Celtics. Check that out, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. All right, let's recap the best bets here for the shows. You see Marco D'Angelo is on the Nuggets +1. Andy Lang saying Sabonis under 22.5 points, maybe a little load management after playing last night, especially if it's a blowout. And Ralph Michaels, human database, stat daddy, the pen, Golden State Warriors -8. Thanks for watching, everybody. Joe Ranieri will be back tomorrow on Friday. And once again, Joe is busy producing and clipping right now some 101 how-to betting videos that a lot of us knocked out today. So yet another reason to hit subscribe and hit the bell for instant alerts when those go live here on the channel. Thumbs up, like if you found it useful. And please comment below. We read all the comments. We reply back. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I need to know. This is very important. And also, more importantly, what best bets do you like tonight on Thursday in the NBA? And be sure to check back tomorrow on Friday, 4:15 Eastern live for the next NBA tip-off show. Good luck tonight. Thanks for watching.